But now time for our Tirreno-Adriatico recap. Not a prologue. It's a first stage TT, too long for a prologue, 14 Ks long. This is a stage that was a sprint stage last year. They've made the TT first. It's usually the last stage, stage 7. It's pancake flat. Not that technical. And it's a TT that I just cannot figure out. The results when I was watching it they didn't make sense at the time. The splits, all very, very odd to me. The top 3 is not a surprise, or the top 4 is not a surprise. Ganna won. He was doubted in the market. He actually started second favourite behind Evenepoel, but he beat him by 11 seconds or 10.5 seconds. Pogačar then another 7 seconds on 15.35 behind Evenepoel, beating Asgreen by 6. Dowsett, his best TT in a very, very long time. And I think that he's on the new Israel Premier Tech Factor TT bike. He came 5th. That's top result on 15.42. Then Arensman, Ludvigsen, Van Emden, Bjerg, Sobrero 10th. And that all sounds normal. That's all fine. Were you surprised by the sequence of anything in the top 10 there, Benji?
Not necessarily, I would say. I was only surprised of Pogačar's second part of the time trial, where the initial part he came 5th on the first time check. Then towards the second part, he basically flew past Cherny and Dowsett, who had a worse second part than Pogačar. Obviously, otherwise he wouldn't be passing them. And as a consequence, he's getting that 3rd spot. And it's only like 18 seconds behind Ganna. And did he have a better second part than Evenepoel, or very similar? I think it's pretty similar. Yeah.
He did 2 seconds quicker than Evenepoel on the quicker section, which is, I don't understand how that's happened. I don't understand how he's beaten Evenepoel on a 57k an hour average section at the end of this TT. Evenepoel's more aero. Doesn't make sense to me, but yep, maybe like Evenepoel didn't have, I think, a Minuteman that he could chase because his Minuteman was Ganna. That makes a difference. But Ganna had the fastest T1 to finish, and the fastest finish. But yeah, Evenepoel a little bit slower than even Arensman. Arensman did the second quickest T1 to finish. He'll be on Jumbo Visma, I think, as a GC guy pretty soon. But the weirdness, Miguel Angel Lopez, really good TT, same time as Benjamin Thomas, 15.59, about, quick maths, 21 seconds, 31 seconds behind Evenepoel. That's quite good. Gegenhardt, same time, 15.59. But then Jonas, Benji, who I thought could put time into Pog here, because I have full faith in Jumbo's aero system. I'm looking for him. He did, something must be wrong. He did 16.10 in this TT, which is, I think, nearly 53 seconds or something slower than Ganna. What do you think went wrong?
I don't know what went wrong, but it's like both sides of the time trial that he did a relatively poor performance compared to what we're used to when it comes to Jonas, like getting 30 or 29 at the first intermediate and then 27 in the second part. Well, it's not that amazing, is it, for him? And getting beaten by the likes of Masbonet and riders like Bovaro, yeah, those are not shit time trialers, but those are the riders that you get between position 15 and 20 normally in time trials, and that's what's happening on this occasion as well. Vingegaard should have had a better time trial today. And it's not the only rider that has odd balances between the first part of the time trial and the second part. Then we look at the likes of Marc Soler, for example, came 18th on this time trial, 59th at the first time check, and in the end he finishes 18th. So quite a decent performance, I'd say, based on that. And then we look at Lopez, and we go from 36 to that position 13 that it was. So the second part seems to have favored Lopez and Soler a lot more than the first part.
Yeah, Jonas lost, I think, 20 to Pogačar in the UAE to a flat TT at the start of last year on the same distance, 13 Ks. He won Drome Classic in pretty dominant fashion, French semi-classic the other weekend, just over a week ago. And he must be unwell. I don't know. But that being said, Jumbo, they didn't have a good day. Like Affini, way worse than I expected. I thought Affini would be top 5, top 6 here based on his Giro TT at the start of in 2021. And Koos, not great. Van Emden was quite good. But yeah, Jumbo, I don't know. I don't know what happened. But yeah, hopefully Jonas is back. 40-second deficit to Pog, though, and Evenepoel. It's big.
It's too much, I think. When it comes
we
to,
were just maybe we were too high on him for GC here.
I don't know. Like, the time trials on paper fit him, so I was expecting more as simple as that. When it comes to Buchmann, it's looking pretty bad for the Giro the last couple of weeks. He lost a minute 40, I think. Was it on this time trial? If we extrapolate 14 kilometers towards the amount of TT kilometers in the Giro, then he's going to lose about 4 minutes in the limited amount of TT kilometers in that race. So it's not looking good for that.
Wait, isn't there only 17 Ks of TT in the Giro?
There's 2 time trials. Initially, you've got a 12-kilometer one, I think, near the start. And then towards the end, there's a longer one, but there's a climb in the middle. So
yeah, wow.
It's more than
3 minutes.
17, I think.
Wow. Yeah, him and Hindley, Kelderman too, not good TTs. That's why I was trying to figure out, is this a time trial course for the small aero time trialists? Is it one that the GC guys can sneak into top 10 if people aren't trying? Is it one for the engines? Mostly engines and big guys in the top 10. But then you look at Lopez 13th, and if Lopez is 13th and Gegenhardt 14th, I'm like, how can Kelderman be 20 seconds behind that? It just, maybe setups have changed. I don't know. We don't know exactly what different equipment people are running. Even Wellens, Benji, I guess it's March. He lost a minute to Pog.
It's March. Yeah,
Landa,
that's true.
16:40. That's just unprofessional. How?
Yeah, it's not a good time by him and by a lot of people here, but it's certainly showing that we've got a battle between Pogačar and Evenepoel for GC. And unfortunately, Vingegaard is already a bit behind on that battle because that was my third candidate in the row. Do you think that Lopez is now a contender, knowing the good time trial happening?
Yeah. He was the strongest, just about, apart from Yates at Andalusia. He just got sold by Lutsenko so badly. So yeah, Lopez dangerous.
Gegenhardt got 14th.
I'll wait for the uphill.
Okay.
I think. But there's tomorrow's stage, 220 kilometers long from Camaiore to Sovicile. It's a climby sprinty boy stage, the classic Giro one, but gentle climbs. And the last one, Crest, with 18 Ks to go. We seem to have mostly shallow gradients, and a sprinter in good condition should be getting over them. The problem is the length of the stage, 220, it's not short in a 1 week race, and who is going to be willing to pace the break and do a good job of it? The best sprinters we have here are Viviani, we have Buani with McClay leading him out. Cavendish for Quickstep will probably be the team to take charge, as well as Lotto Soudal with Ewan. I think Ewan wins the stage, Benji.
I think Ewan wins the stage as well, personally. And he kind of has to get over the hills. If he doesn't get over these hills, then, like last year, he didn't get over the Tirreno hills, and we were saying, Milano-San Remo, that won't happen. So perhaps he should not be able to get over these Tirreno hills to do the opposite psychology towards all the competitors, thinking he's not a competitor for MSR again.
Based on what we saw with his climbing in Tour des Alpes Maritimes and Duvar, he should be getting around this course. Yep. And with Quickstep definitely not wanting to blow this race up. I think with Quickstep and Lotto Soudal controlling things and the other teams sort of along for the ride, it should be a bunch sprint. The teams that really should try, Benji, Bike Exchange for Matthews. Isn't this one where it is actually worth trying?
It depends. Groves or Matthews, what do you think you've got the most chance for in the sprint? And I'd argue that
Matthews.
Even in to be honest, even in a hilly sprint, even if half of the pure sprinters get out of that group because bike exchange is spacing, Matthews probably has less of a chance of winning than Groves. They both don't really have a chance of winning. Like,
do you reckon Court wins from the break? I can see Court winning from the break. I might put money on that before this gets published. I can see it's a long stage, 220Ks. If they get the timing wrong, we've got Alpecin here with Merlier, who might not want to be very helpful, which they rarely are with the other sprint teams in the latter half of the stage. And if it just takes Cav struggling a little bit too much on the climb, and maybe Court can win this stage. Wouldn't be surprised to see him in the break tomorrow. But that'll be Tirreno and Paris, big doubleheader of hilly sort of sprint style stages. I can't wait. But Benji, Zwift have announced today that they are the presenting partner of Paris-Roubaix Femmes. It will be known as the Paris-Roubaix Femmes avec Zwift. We know that there was the huge announcement last year of Le Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Well, now not just the biggest one-week stage race on the calendar for women will be presented by Zwift, but now the biggest one-day race on the calendar, which had its inaugural event last year, won by Lizzie Deignan. There was incredible hype for it, and now it's back in its April slot, and we will see Zwift as the presenting partner. So great to see that Zwift continuing to support women's cycling. Before we leave you today, we have the big news. Apparently, Drive to Survive, or the producers of that show on Netflix, the Formula One series, are looking at and are close to a deal to have the same style of series for the Tour de France. So not for a whole season of races, not for ASO's races. It seems to be just the men's Tour de France on the table for now. Vela News put out an article on this, sort of with some information they'd gleaned, seemed to be the details. 8 episodes, 35 minutes long, on Netflix for release on May of 23. So that's competing with the Giro, Benji. RCS will be even more mad. In May to build hype for the Tour next year. 8 World Tour teams involved: Jumbo, EF, Quickstep, Groupama FDJ, Ineos, AG2R, Alpecin, and Movistar. But my first question, Benji, do you think this is a good thing for cycling?
I think it's a good idea that we've got more assets or add-ons next to the sport that can drive viewership of the sport, and next to that, make it a bit more exciting for viewers to jump into that. We know that the F1 show has brought a lot of drama up and so forth in that sport, has also brought a lot of new audience to that sport, and as a consequence, we've seen a significant growth in F1 viewership over the last couple of years, and I hope that it's having the same effect on the cycling world right now. And I hope that it also has that same effect of being able to get a cyclist that is currently a leader to a more superstar version of themselves. They're more of a stardom than just a leader of a cycling team. I want rivalries. I want stuff like that. I want more drama in that sense. And I think this can add to that. And I think this can also be an extra add-on when it comes to the finances to teams. Now, when it comes to the finances, I do want to ask you a question. In total, it's according to Willerflitz, 8 million in total by Netflix to be able to do this, of which 1 goes to the different stakeholders in the project. So ASO is a stakeholder, France Television, and also the 8 teams. And those 8 teams would each get 1/8 of 500K. So in total, 62K roughly per team. Is that enough, knowing that they are basically the product?
It's just a nominal amount. That money is so small. I think the teams are doing this 99% because they want the exposure and because you don't want to be the ones left behind. Like, if I'm a World Tour sponsor and my team, I'd be like, you have to do this. You have to get. That's the point. And then maybe they're hoping that more exposure, then their sponsors will pay more. That's the whole trickle down model. I would say I was surprised by that fee, like, because I know I'm one of the only people, maybe I think one of the first people ever in sports to buy like just an independent sort of company to buy like race or sports rights for digital media, specifically for digital media. And the Netflix series is similar to that. It's not the live rights, it's the right to record, I guess, as well, which is a bit different. But yeah, I was surprised by the fee, if that fee is correct, because yeah, $250 to ASO. You might be wondering, the $250 to France TV, I think this is where the Tirreno guys, I think, might have run into trouble last year as well. I don't know the exact legal arrangements, but I think France TV have some sort of exclusive right, they must, to record the race as the host broadcaster. And these guys from Netflix walking in with their cameras infringes upon that, I presume. So they got to get a cut. And that's why I think there was some legals, like that's why it was a problem that what the Tirreno guys were doing. Don't know whether they're going to reach an agreement this year anyway. But yeah, what about you, Benji? Like, were you surprised by that money? Is that why you think UAE aren't doing it?
I don't think that's the reason why UAE aren't doing it. I think there's a lot of things that are added to this, next to the fact that you've got cameras seeing a lot more that can also give pressure on riders. I think that's an effect that it can have. For example, we saw in the Movistar thing that we actually saw, honestly, let's be honest about it, pressure on certain riders or certain DS's, social media, insults towards people in that team as a consequence of the project that they did. El menos pensado, dia menos pensado, something like that.
El dia menos pensado.
Yes, exactly. And as a consequence, that can have an effect on the mental state of riders and so forth. I think certain teams want to protect that. Certain teams won't want everything behind the scenes to get known when they've got things that competitors, for example, don't have strategies or techniques to do better in time trials and so forth. And as a consequence, I think that's part of the reasons why certain teams might not want to do this. I think next to UAE, we're also seeing Bahrain skipping this. And I personally, for the first time in many days, I agree with Patrick Lefevre on this, where obviously it's wonderful exposure, but I believe that the team should get more of a cut.
Yeah, but they don't know. That's for... And that's sort of the Netflix model, isn't it? Isn't the Netflix model that they get new actors who don't really have much of a track record, and then they try and create a viral hit with them paying whatever their market rate was before they became superstars? It'll be interesting. I think this is what Lefevre was sort of intimating was, yeah, we'll be on board season 1, but if this blows up and is a success, it's going to be more than 62 grand for season 2. I don't know whether Velon can, like, I don't know what Velon does, actually. I don't know what Velon currently do, but I thought this is the one thing where they could band the teams together and have collective bargaining. But FDJ aren't a Velon team. Most of these teams, though, are Velon teams. So maybe, I don't know if Velon are involved with it at all. What do you think about, like, I'll be honest, I got into F1, and I'm not really into F1, just a casual fan, because I like the Drive to Survive series. I'm one of the target audience, so I know how effective this can be. Are you worried that they won't explain cycling properly, or does it even matter? Or do we even bother doing that? Should we just make it entertainment, drama, etc.?
I think a combination. The simplicity of it needs to be explained in a simple way. For example, people need to be able to know how the Tour de France is won, that it's not simply, you win a stage and you need to win as many stages as possible and then you win the Tour. Nah, that's not how it works. It's time-based and so forth. Those basic things, but I don't think we need to go too in-depth into certain rules and so forth, unless there's like the scandal at the end of a stage. Then bringing up the certain rule by some analyst or journalist in one of those interview parts that they also have in the Drive to Survive series, that would be fun to hype up the drama around certain things. And I think that it doesn't need to be explained completely, but some simple things might need to be explained to get a new audience in, but it's probably going to be the visuals and the action and so forth that's going to get the audience in, and not necessarily the way it works. So that's the most important aspect, I would say. And I agree, I'm also not the biggest fan of F1, but I'm also a casual fan because I started binging the Drive to Survive series during my Zwift rides the last few months, and I'm currently roughly in season 2, so don't spoil it. But I'm having fun.
I think, I mean, literally, I've built my job is to try and make cycling, the video of cycling, interesting to people and try and create some sort of narrative when I've on the Lanterne Rouge YouTube channel, some angle to make this delayed use of the footage interesting. Obviously, I don't have the behind the scenes, it's the race footage. But yeah, I will be interested to see with what storylines they go with at the Tour, because there's no Bernal, there's no access to Pogačar. They have access to Jumbo-Visma. I will be, when this is announced, emailing, give them a little email, being like, hey guys, John, little Patrick Bro, LR producer, help out. They couldn't have me or you as Will Buxton and Benji. We can't be trusted. It's the the English journo on Drive to
I want to be one of those analysts. Actually, and like this, the little pieces. Yeah, that's true. I'm a normal person, unlike yourself.
Sorry, what storylines do you think they'll go with? Surely Rog v Pog Slovenia rivalry, that's low-hanging fruit. Got to go with that, right?
Certainly that's low-hanging fruit. If Cavendish goes to the Tour de France, that's also an aspect that they could delve into. It really depends on how the race start list is, how the race is written, and so forth. Stories will automatically come out of that. Like last year, we had the crash in the early stages. That's one episode. If that happens again, which hopefully doesn't this year, hopefully. But I want to bring it back to a point you've made where UAE is not here. Obviously, the Tour de France winner of the last 2 years is not present and currently the favorite for the Tour de France again. On paper, I'm pretty sure, based on the current odds, I would guess. And as a consequence, they don't have that rider. But if you bring it back to the season 1 of that Drive to Survive series, they also didn't have like the biggest one out there. Lewis Hamilton was not in there. Mercedes was not in there in season 1. Those riders came, riders as well, drivers, came in the later seasons. And is it necessarily the end of the world that Pogačar is missing in this first season? I don't think so. No. They just need to prove that it's worth for Pogačar and UAE to join in the second one.
And they've still got, I presume, the right to use interviews, the generic interviews that Pogačar would be doing after the race anyway, to add colour for what he's saying. That's just not stuff they've recorded. I assume they'll have some race footage. And I don't think Verstappen is in season 4 of Drive to Survive, which drops in a few days. So we'll see the effect of that. I don't expect this to be as big as Drive to Survive. I think that's unrealistic. I think we have to understand that Formula One is 20 guys, all extremely wealthy, probably bigger egos, more drama, more glitz and glamour. It's F1. And cycling's a little bit more down to earth. That being said, in cycling, there's plenty of petty shit that goes on. There's plenty of stuff behind the scenes that people will not believe happens, and drama and shouting and tantrums. So if it's 33% as good as Drive to Survive, I think that's still a massive win for cycling. But as you can tell, we've talked about this almost longer than our Tirreno recap. As people in cycling media, I'm extremely excited for it because they just make the series and do nothing else. We get to talk about the storylines. We get to, when we talk about riders, they're bigger names now. So I think it's all good for us in the cycling media. And I guess we never go to the races anyway. So, let us know what you think down below. Are you keen to watch it? I think everyone that listens to this pod, that 100% of people will be watching it. But thanks for listening. As always, thanks to Zwift, our presenting show partner of the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, and we'll see you with the double header tomorrow. Ciao.